So the big question is this: how do investors like us who don't have a PhD in finance or millions to start investing, how do we grow our bank accounts to build real savings in retirements and yet still have the time to do what we really love? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer.
Hey guys, John here at the Stock Market Series podcast. You're super excited because it's Friday, which is so exciting. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about something that was just so cool this morning. It was a stock that literally tripled after we got in today on the stream, and it was like I don't know, the stock's up 500%. It's some crazy number like that. But there was this one thing that I kind of learned from it today, and that we sort of came through together that I thought was really powerful. And I wanted to share with you because it's so important. It's about the psychology of circuit breakers and sort of like how you can really game the system once you see those circuit breakers, which is so cool. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys about the power circuit breakers. I will see you after the intro, and then we'll get right into it. Okay, awesome. I'm so excited for you guys. Okay, so I want to start this out. I talk about circuit breakers in the book, and I break down the science of it, and that's totally cool. Cool. I want to talk about the underlying psychology today. Because it's just so insane. Today on the stock, it had probably 10 circuit breaker halts. And we got in, it was a wedge setup, right? So you have a wedge setup, you get in off the wedge setup. It breaks out, and it goes up 15%, or 30%, because it was the first 15 minutes. It goes up 30% in the span of 4 minutes. And then it gets halted, right? It gets halted for about 15 minutes just because it was an extended halt. Then it opens back up, and it just right back, and it goes up 15% within 30 seconds, and then it gets halted again. And then it opens up after that halt, after 5 more minutes, and then it goes up 30%, and then it gets halted again. And oh my gosh, it does that 2 more times, and then it peaks, and then it comes down, and then it gets halted on the way down. And then after another 30 minutes of waiting for holds to expire, we're just sitting there twiddling our thumbs, waiting for some crap to happen because there's literally nothing to do. What's really interesting is the stock starts to consolidate at the, it wasn't the VWAP, but it was at a support level that was historically proven. And it was one of our price targets that just it powered right past, which was so cool. And so it goes through this support level, right? And then it sounds consolidating, and it had the first circuit breaker. It just bam, for the first 4, it was just straight green up, and now it's consolidating. Now it's a little bit red. And at this point, our position is basically doubled, which is oh my gosh, so cool. Excuse me. And so after that happens, here's the cool thing, right? The stock goes and goes until it goes sideways for 5 minutes, right? For 5 minutes, it just trends up and down sideways, and it consolidates, and it basically forms a perfect ABCD setup. I mean, I was blown away that this thing had the momentum left to have an ABCD setup. Literally, I have no clue what happened. There was no news on this company. They were just a gainer that came out of the market 932. I found them on the screener. They were the top one on the screener, up 134%. And they just blew it out of the water. Oh my gosh. So at this point, they're up 300%. And they start to form an ABCD setup. And then the C starts to curve up. And you guys heard the podcast about the ABCD setup. And you guys probably read the book about the ABCD setup. So they're curving up to get to that breakout point where they form a new high. And as they're going up, they get circuit breaker halted again. It was oh my God. This is the craziest thing ever. And so just by moving, you have to understand how volatile this stock is. It looks like it's moving a couple of inches on the screen, but in reality, every single candle that it moves is 10%. A 1 minute candle is a 10% gain, which is oh my God, so amazing. Just insane growth. And so it gets halted again, and then after it gets unhalted, breaks past a new high, and then it gets halted again because it just went up so fast. It went up 15% in freaking 45 seconds. And then it gets opened up again. It gets halted again. After 5 minutes, right? It opens up again. It's an ABCD setup. So it goes really fast on the upside, breaks out, makes the D. And over the course of the D, it's got 2 or 3 more circuit breaker halts. So it just gets halted for 5 minutes, opens up, explodes upward, gets halted for 5 minutes, opens, and oh my God, it's amazing. And it hit the ABCD price target on the dot. Our target was 306, and we bought at 92. The target was 306 for the for the ABCD setup after the initial breakout, and it hit 306 exactly. That was the peak. And then after that, it got circuit breaker halted again. This is why it's so important. And we had about a minute and a half before it got circuit breaker halted after it hit its high. And I was like, out, dude, done. Screw, we're done. Like I sold half of the remaining shares at like 285, and then the rest of it 306. Like that gives you an idea. Like 285 to 306 is a really, really nice gain, and that's like 30% or something, 10%. I don't know. And like that happened in the span of like 15 seconds with the stock. So like just understand how crazy. Like this stock literally tripled in the span of 15 candles. But those candles actually represented like an hour of trading because of all the freaking circuit breakers, which is like insane. And I'm talking about 1 minute candles. Oh my gosh, so crazy. So crazy. And so, oh my gosh. So here's the cool part, right? Like after it hits the peak, like you've got to get out most of the time. Or, at least sell half or something. And so it gets circuit breaker halted after it hits the peak. Because it has to be up there for 15 seconds to get halted. So you got 15 seconds to trade after it goes up 15%. And after it gets circuit breaker halted, this is where the big stuff starts to happen. Because you start to have people that are like huge sell out. And so as we were moving up to this new high at like 306, like I started seeing like 1,000 share positions, 10,000 share positions, 50,000 share positions, 40,000 share positions. People that had literally probably made at least like 20 or 30 or $40,000 that day, selling out on the way up. And then like right before the circuit breaker halt, like so the halt goes into effect, and then they clear the rest of the trades, right? So the halt goes into effect, but one guy got it was the last trade they got in. You can see it on the level 2. The last trade they got in was 67,000 shares, which is $180,000 sold at the peak at like 285. It was like, oh my gosh, holy crap. This guy made like $100,000 today. And it was just so insane, so crazy. And so once you start to see volume like that, the volume on this stock was about 2 or 3 or 4 million shares at the beginning. And throughout the rest of the day, it was about 7 million shares tops. So if you have people literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars, usually you're kind of at the top, especially if you're on an ABCD setup. And here's the cool thing, right? So I'm going to come back to those first couple of circuit breakers in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about like this sell-off that happened, right? So obviously it's going to go down, right? And it's not like it goes down so fast that you lose everything. Because again, you already had so much profit. It's like very, very difficult to lose money on a trade like this. And, but here's the cool thing. So it gets halted after it hits the high. And then that guy sells all of his crap like right before the halt, which is like so well timed. And so 5 minutes goes, and here's the deal. Like, you don't know where a stock price is going to open after you have a circuit breaker halt, right? It could open, 50% up. It could open 50% down. You just have no clue. And so after all these orders get cleared, the stock just like, bomb, dude, it was this red candle, and it went to like, you guys know how big like the D is in an ABCD setup. The D on this trade was about 80 cents or something, which is about like 60% or something. At the C level. So it basically just like went all the way down to the breakout point of the ABCD setup at the top of the A. And it just destroyed the entire D like within like 2 seconds after the market opened back up and the circuit breakers were taken out of effect. And there was just so much selling. I mean, it was crazy, right? Because it got to a breakout point, it got to a contention point, and it's not like you're losing money on the trade because it's selling down to what? It's selling down to like 220, I think. Maybe $2. It was about 220. And you get it at like 90 cents. I mean, it's really great. But this is why you got to sell at the top, right? If you don't sell at the top, you're going to have to hold through that circuit breaker halt, and you don't know where that circuit breaker halt's going to open. But here's that's kind of what I want to focus on for this episode, because like this is something I've seen a lot. But it's something, it's like an elephant, okay? Like if you are walking down the street and you see an elephant, like that's insane. Like that's crazy. And like, it's like so berserk. And you're like, oh my gosh, an elephant. And so that's kind of what I see circuit breakers as. Circuit breakers are kind of like elephants, okay? You're trading stocks and you see, you get in a position and then it goes up so much that you have a circuit breaker halt. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's an elephant. That's insane. But here's the thing with elephants, right? Like, you don't know if they're safe to ride, if you can just hop on their back, or, maybe the elephant is like super dangerous and will stomp you and it'll like crush you. You just don't know. That's the same thing with circuit breakers. Like circuit breakers, I have this example I used in 9 to noon. I remember it got circuit breaker halted, and then it went down like 100% in like the halt period, right? When there was no trading activity, right? Because the circuit breaker halt just stops trading after it goes up like 15-30%. It kind of depends on the time period. It depends on the stock. And I talked about that all 9 to noon. It's not a big deal. But the key is that no one can trade, right? excuse me, and they're letting all the trades clear. So like it's like an elephant, right? So you see an elephant, you see one elephant, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And there's potential here for a huge upside or a huge downside. And it just kind of depends on the circumstances that you're in, right? If the elephant is running down the street, screaming, wailing its trunk everywhere, and like, you know, looking like complete and total mayhem, then it's probably really, really bad. Similarly, if a stock is selling and 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 it's going down super, super fast, that's probably bad if it gets circuit breaker halted. But then there's the other side, okay? So what if the elephant is being guided by this not magical, but like this jester, this court jester, and he's got like this clown hat on, and it's like obviously, you know, he's part of some kind of parade or he's part of some sort of, you know, circus act or something. And he's carefully guiding the elephant down. He's got a harness on his neck. Like, that's going to be a good elephant, right? You can look at it and you can be like, wow, that's so cool. What a cool display. Like, that's awesome. It's the same thing with a circuit breaker. If the stock is going up and up and up and up and up and up, and it literally goes up 56% before you even have the elephant, before you even have the circuit breaker, then you have a circuit breaker, like, it's probably going to be insanely great. And so that's exactly what happened, right? The first circuit breaker. It gets circuit broken, and then it opens up like 30% higher, goes up 15%, and in the span of a freaking minute, it gets halted again. And this is the power. This is so huge. It's this idea of multiple circuit breakers because, like, I'll tell you guys something. Like, an elephant's cool, and you'll see a couple of elephants trading. You know, you'll see a couple of circuit breakers. But something that's a little bit less common are multiple circuit breakers. And when you see multiple circuit breakers, you have these stocks that, like today, go up literally 600%. And like, honestly, you can make, you know, as much money in a day as like, I remember I had this one guy, I think it was 2 years ago, and he was trading, he was like, I think he was at like university, oh God, I forgot the university. He's trading, you know, day trading to pay for college. And in one day, the stock went up 700%. It went from like $2 to like $11. I forget the exact numbers, but it was definitely like, it was like $2 to $11. It was insane. And that day, they got circuit breaker like 10 times, dude. It was ridiculous. It was so crazy. It might have been a little bit less than 10. It was a little bit more spread out. So this trade was about a 1 hour, 1.5 hour trade. That trade lasted all day until about 2 o'clock, which was pretty abnormal. It lasted a really long time. But I mean, the stock freaking like $2. So anyway, this guy, he was trading the stock, and he literally made enough money in that single day to pay for the entire next semester of college tuition, which I just thought was like, holy crap, so amazing, so awesome, so inspirational. And I was like, wow, dude, wow, that's awesome. And that's, oh my gosh, that's kind of what today is. It was a really, really, really special day. And so it's this idea of like, you have like not only one elephant going down the street, you know, being carefully held by the court jester, by, you know, the circus guy, but instead you have like 10 elephants together going down the street, all at the same pace, carefully led by a group of jesters, carefully brought together. And it's not just one, it's like 10 of them. And you have this huge parade. Now, obviously, if all the elephants are going crazy and it's, you know, in the red, like, that's bad, right? Like, if the price just keeps going down and down and down, it gets stopped, you know, it gets circuit breaker halted 10 times on the downside. Like, you don't want to be in that trade unless you're shorting. If you're shorting it, like, holy crap, that's really good. I remember that happened with PG&E when they, like, you know, burned down all of California. And that was nice. I mean, they went down like 60% in like a day. And like, oh man, there was a lot of money to be made there. Especially with puts. Oh man. But similarly, what else, right? If it's a great parade, if it's good elephants, you have 10 great elephants, you know, it just goes up and up and up and up and up. Those are going to be an insane opportunity. Like, it's going to be ridiculously great. And you'll sort of see like there's a disproportionate number of groups of positive stop losses than there are negative stop losses, because attention goes to the gaining stocks, not the losing stocks, right? There's just not as much attention on the big losers. There's significantly more attention on the big winners. And so, you know, this stock hits 200% daily gain, and it's on everybody's screen, right? I think that's really what allowed it to, you know, have that ABCD set up literally in the stratosphere. It's like a freaking rocket ship or an airplane. It's like an airplane like flies up into the stratosphere, and then like all of a sudden it has like a jet propulsion like rocket booster strapped onto it, and then it just goes into outer space. It's like, oh my God, it was so good. It was like, I mean, like, I don't think I can express to you guys how much dopamine is like flowing through my system right now. This was like one of the best days, like, in so long. It was, and by so long, I mean like since Monday, because on Monday there was that stock that went up 400%, which is like, holy shit. But that one didn't get circuit breaker halted. It was a little bit slower. This one was so much more volatile because literally every single minute it was opened, it was moving like 30% in a minute. And it was like, whoa! Oh my gosh. So what's the point here, right? So if you see that group of elephants, see that group of circuit breakers, and you have like a ton of circuit breakers, and you're holding through the circuit breakers because you get in early, like just let it go, and play off of long-term resistance levels, and then really, really strong technical setups like the head and shoulder setup and the ABCD setup. And if you combine like mostly like the ABCD setup with those long-term resistance levels, which is exactly what we did today, which is literally just following like textbook how to, like invest really, really well. It's exactly what I teach in the book. And it's like, it works so freaking well. Oh my gosh. Oh man, just an insane day today. And I just I thought it was so cool. And I want to share it with you guys because I think you can learn a lot about circuit breakers. So like the goal, right, is not to fear circuit breakers, but to treat them like an elephant, right? To treat them sort of like as a good thing, as long as they are a good thing, right? And so you just have to be careful with them. But like, dude, they are so nice if you can use them in the right way. And all you really need is patience. And what you want to do, right, is after you have a circuit breaker, especially after the first circuit breaker, because the first circuit breaker is really like what's going to determine the momentum for the rest of it. You don't know if it's going to go out of the first circuit breaker, go up 50% in freaking 10 seconds, and then get halted again, which is kind of what happened today. You want to sort of look at that candle immediately after the circuit breaker opens. And usually that's going to be like basically exactly what you can predict is going to happen. So for this, like the first 5 circuit breakers, while it was having the huge run up, every single first candle after the circuit breaker was immediately green. And I don't want you guys to wait for that 1 minute candle to close, because in all reality, like candles move fast as heck after you have a circuit breaker. Like they go really quick because you have 5 minutes of volume that's getting poured in at the same time. So that's why stocks can literally move like almost at light speed right after a circuit breaker gets taken away and a stock gets unhalted, especially if it kind of gets opened at a price near where the other older price was. See, some stocks, they get circuit breakered, and I mean, the price just opens nowhere near the old price, but usually, I'd say probably like 80% of the time, you're going to see the price open fairly close to where the price closed 5 minutes ago, as long as, at least in individual stocks, as long as, basically there hasn't been like somebody trading 50 million shares and they just like dropped the entire market or, pumped up the entire market. Usually it'll open pretty close. And what you want to do is in like the first 5 seconds, you have to like count to 5. And it's so difficult because it'll move so quickly. And I've been in situations like I'm freaking out. I'm like, holy crap, this thing just went up down 30% in like the span of 14 seconds. And it's like so crazy. But if you just wait for that 15 second, it takes 15 seconds over a 15% gap for another circuit breaker halt to be enacted, right? So if it goes up like 30% in 15 seconds, it's going to get halted again. It just needs to be there for 15 seconds. Then it'll get halted. Similarly, you don't want to get trapped on the downside. Like if it goes down after it gets halted, like you get the hell out of that in 99% of situations, especially on the first circuit breaker, because it will go down hard. And it will keep going down and it will get ganked. And especially if you have another circuit breaker after that, like if it goes down 15% and gets halted, like you'll be stuck in that trade until that halt comes out. And usually like almost every single time, if it goes down a whole bunch and gets circuit breakered on the downside, then it's going to keep going down and it's going to open significantly lower than it got halted at. But if it goes up and it gets circuit breakered again, that's where you have something that's really special. You have like 2 elephants now. And those are very special creatures. That's so powerful. So now it's, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good because it's going to keep going up, right? You gotta wait for the next candle to open. But like if you see green instantly, like you can tell this thing's going somewhere. And today going somewhere meant tripling, which is insane. In like 15 candles, which is like, oh my gosh. But like, there's so many different ways to look at this, so many different aspects to it. But it all comes down to this core, key, fundamental concept of giving it like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and then figuring out exactly what's going to happen. Because it's a fast-paced environment. You can't be slacking. You got to have your button on the buy or the sell or the join the bid or the sell the ask. You've got to be on your shit. Because these things they'll move really fast after they get circuit breaker halted. but you just want to see what that next candle is. And the next candle is green, you're looking great. If the next candle is red, you want to get out, right? Usually. So that's like the deal with most circuit breakers. But here's something really special that happened today that I want to share with you. So this stock, it had two sort of really strong long-term resistances. And one of them was at like $2. The other one was at like 305. And it might have been like 220. I don't have it in front of me. It went up to like 250, and my goal was like, holy crap, this thing didn't hit 264. But then it got halted at 255. So it gets halted, and I'm like, all right, well, just sitting here doing nothing. And 5 minutes later, it opens back up, and there's a huge red candle immediately, like within the first 4 seconds of trading. Now, it goes down probably, I'd say 40% in 4 seconds. Okay, now here's sort of the important thing to know here. Okay, so at this point, the position had basically like doubled over and a half. So it was like 2.5x. And it just went down to basically doubling. I don't think it was a 40% down. It went down to that $2, $2.20 price level on the support level. And this was the first red candle after circuit breaker, after literally like 5 circuit breakers on the upside. So you have to understand, there's already been like 4 or 5 circuit breakers on the upside. So it's already super high. And so here's the important thing to remember, right? The ABCD setup. You guys know the ABCD setup. It's so powerful. It change your life. How do I want to say this? So like, that was like the A, right? And obviously if it kept going down, sure, stop out of it. Okay, sounds good. We're done with it. Not a big deal. But like, this is so good. So if you have a bunch of like green, and then you have that first red circuit breaker, sometimes, especially if it's past a support level, all you need to do is let it consolidate for like 5 minutes at a support level. And that's exactly what this stock did. It consolidates at a support level for like 4 minutes, and it makes a perfect ABCD setup. And then it just keeps going, like I told you guys earlier. It triples after that, right? Or it gets to triple the entry point, right? Which is, so powerful. And so here's the thing, right? You can't freak out. Like, there are obviously points along this where I pretty much really wanted to sell like half of the position, which is like totally a smart thing to do. Take profits. Money is money. 100% with that stuff, right? Oof. But like, oh my gosh, so amazing. And so like, how do I, like, oh man, this is just so huge. So like, the goal, right, is to be reasonable with it, but also do like an insane job. And so like, if it's going to make an ABCD setup, like, you've got to give it time. And so after you have like, if you have multiple circuit breakers, after the first couple, like, give it a second and see if it will consolidate, because if it'll dude, this thing was so far out of what anybody even could like have thought would be possible for it. And it just exploded. It was insane. And as soon as it did that, like, oh my gosh, like, no one could have even like thought this would happen. They were literally, a 40, 30, 20 cent stock the day before. And it just was so good. But here's the deal, right? So it comes out of the circuit breaker and it goes down, and then it consolidates, and then it has the ABCD setup. So like, after it has the ABC setup, it was all green candles after that, all green circuit breakers after that, until you get to the peak, okay? So here's what happened at the peak. So remember, you got 15 seconds at a new high over 15% until the circuit breaker gets enacted. So like, we're selling at 305 at the peak, and it's like been, probably like 10 seconds. And there's like this huge red candle right at the top. And I see the top as predicted by the ABCD setup, and I see, and the base on the A, by the way, just so you guys know, the base on the A was sort of where the wedge started that we originally got into. You want to usually base the bases on like supports, resistances, or VWAPs if they're really high flyers. So you have a little bit of more of a conservative entry point than just the open of the day or something. That's a powerful thing. Like, you guys should rewind and listen to that again, because that's really powerful. So like, basically, right, it does this. It just freaking explodes. It crushes it. And then it has this red candle off the top for 1 minute, for I'd say about, 30, not 30 seconds, like probably like 10 seconds was the opportunity time frame here. Like, it's going red. And I'm like, dude, stop loss at 285, get out. And then after that was like the first, like, it had 2 basically big red candles in the entire, in between classes. They have this giant steam whistle that they blow, and it's just so iconic. Oh my God, it's so much fun. That was the big steam whistle. But anyway, there was basically two big red price candles after the startup of this movement, right? At the beginning, it was all green, and then the consolidation phase was a little bit of red, and then all green afterwards. But at the beginning of the consolidation phase, and right before this huge pullback after the red circuit breaker that went down a whole bunch, like that, those were the only two times where there were big red volume bars, right? Like not volume bars, I'm so used to saying big red volume bars because like that's a really good indicator too. But and that's in the book. But like big red big red candles, right? It went down a whole bunch. And the first time it went down a whole bunch, it consolidated and it created the ABCD setup. But the second time it goes down a whole bunch, and especially if there's no support level to go to, or if it's already super, super high above the support level, or if it just hit a huge resistance level, that's when you need to get your butt out of that trade and sell. And that's like exactly what we did. And it worked super, 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 super well. Because like I said, when you have when you have losing candles, when you have money being lost right before circuit breaker, usually that means it's going to open significantly lower. And it did. It gapped like 20%, 30% down after that circuit breaker, and then it's just going to chill out and probably go down for the rest of the day. So yeah, like, oh my gosh. Amazing trade today. And some amazing things to learn about circuit breaker holds. So powerful. You really need to have your attention like all in. What I do is usually you can kind of tell when there's been a circuit breaker, and then I'll set a timer for like 5 minutes so that I know exactly when the circuit, or 4 and a half minutes, so that I know exactly when the circuit breaker is going to get taken off. And then after the circuit breaker gets undone, like that like this is where you need to be paying attention and have your finger ready to pull the trigger on the upside or the downside, because it's going to move fast. And in this situation, it worked out perfectly. It went up ridiculously quickly, and dude, it's just absolutely crushed it. Literally tripled after oh man, it's just an amazing day. Amazing like opportunity, amazing everything about this. Just freaking like 10 out of 10, man. Best day ever. So I hope you guys got a ton of value from this. Go out there, apply it, start trading. Stocks that will get you, like, you can't intentionally find like that elephant in the middle of the road, and it's not like you like looking for a circuit breaker, because most of the time you're not going to see one until you're in a trade, because usually you want to be in the top trades, you want to be in that top 1% of stocks, and you do that by using, a screener, right? And so you get in the trade, like usually the goal is to get in the trade first. Sometimes you might get in after the first circuit breaker, but like either way, it's really just all playing the volatility and playing the momentum and understanding like what's going to happen. And like once you get it down to like, is it green or is it red? And if it's going up, should I be in? Like, it's not that difficult, it's pretty simple. So oh man, just a really great, and you could have literally taken like probably 7 trades on that stock today, and every single one of them could have been at a higher price than the last based on technical setups, and it would have still worked phenomenally well. All based on this concept of green candles coming out of circuit breakers leading to higher prices. And it just works really well. And it's the same thing for the downside, right? If you want to short, if you want to buy puts, or if you want to set your stop losses, it's really important. Exact same thing on the downside. It's just the same thing with red. So, it's just awesome stuff, guys. I really appreciate you. Go out there, apply, absolutely crush it. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Want more stock market secrets? If so, go get your free copy of my best-selling book, 9 to Noon. You can get your free copy plus $11,176 of unannounced bonuses it took me years to uncover completely for free at 9tonoonsecrets.com. Inside 9 to Noon, you'll find the top 38 secrets you can use to double your portfolio every 2 years and make upwards of 10% per trade daily.